You're listening to Love and Light with Dr. Lisa, Everyday Living in Peace. Day-to-day living can be difficult in our world today, and most people don't know how to live a peaceful, joy-filled existence. The key to this is simple: love. Join me, Dr. Lisa Collins, for the next hour as I unpack and identify the need for a peaceful, love-filled existence by engaging the challenging and hard topics of life. On this show, you will lean into the healing practices that enlarge your spiritual reality through the act of love. This kind of love begins with yourself and your neighbor and transcends age, race, sex, generation, class, and sexual identity. The world changes when we root ourselves in love. Love and Light with Dr. Lisa starts now. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Lisa, and you're listening to Love and Light, Living Every Day in Peace on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us the next hour and let us help you experience how to bring more love into your everyday life. We're here each second and fourth Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 12 Mountain, and 4 Eastern, and we have tools for living every day in peace. There are people in this world who, despite all odds, give love to others without abandon. And today we will discuss letting our light shine in the world no matter what is happening and no matter who we are. Are you in service in the world, in your community? Listen, stay with us in the next hour. Today, the pandemic, the isolation, what people are experiencing is just so much. People are overloaded. Education's overloaded. Businesses are overloaded. Some jobs are empty. People can't find jobs. We're just spinning around and around. And when we know that when the vibration is low, like lower vibration just begats lower vibration. But when the vibration is high, when positive energy is happening, more positive energy continues to happen. And we have an example. I'm so happy to have Nader, we're practicing his name, here with us today, because here's an example of someone that does just that, raises the vibration of everyone else. So he's a very special guest. He works tirelessly to provide assistance, support, and loving kindness to diverse job seekers. So Nader Mowlaee is a code breaker in the job market. He code breaks practices. He brings his entire self to his work as a caregiver, and he utilizes his lived experiences to build and grow the lives of others. Nader is an engineer, career coach, a leader who teaches fundamentals to assist others. Welcome, Nader, to Love and Light, Living Every Day in Peace.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Lisa. Great to be here.
It's awesome to have you here. So I guess the first thing that I just want our listeners to know is you're bringing care to others. How did you even get into that line of work? How did you get into the line of work where you are caring for others so deeply?
I had other people care for me, just plain and simple as that. And I decided to give back to the world what I've already taken from it. And, give back to people what other people had given to me. So it felt like a duty, like an obligation, like a responsibility, like a moral, spiritual responsibility for me to start coaching others the same as others have coached me. One thing I started doing yesterday was to put together a list of all the coaches and mentors and leaders that have helped me. So to the side of me, I have a long list of names. If you want to, I can sprint through them and, just share some of these, the names of some of these individuals with you. But those are some of the people that helped me overcome obstacles and challenges and help me answer questions that I had, in my heart, more spiritually, in my head, more mentally, help me develop better social awareness in more social circles and every facet of life, career, job, business, entrepreneurship. I guess one thing that I can, and it all started with my mom, right? So I gotta give her, give her credit. It's always been her who helped me feel comfortable raising my hand and ask, you know. So that's the one thing that I know that, I guess if you flip that around, she helped me like kind of like manage my ego, you know, put my ego on check and just realize that, you know, doesn't matter who you are. If you're looking for help, just raise your hand and ask. So kudos to her.
All right, let's just stop and give kudos to all moms
Yeah,
right now.
exactly.
Like we want to give kudos to all moms. And so when I met you, I was coming off of a long career in education. I had experienced racialized trauma. I was pretty beat up. And I remember one of the things when I had contact with you and we actually ended up talking is that I was able to tell my story and you listened to my story. You did not tell me that didn't happen to you. You did not tell me, keep it pushing, get over it. You held compassion for what I was experiencing, and you held space for that. How did you end up doing that as a career coach?
Again, I have to thank other people who gave me space, gave me time and energy to talk, you know, because we all have trauma. We all have childhood trauma, trauma as a teenager, trauma as an adult. There's like, we actually deal with trauma, I believe, on a daily basis. You know, those days that you go through without realizing or experiencing something negative, those days are rare, I believe, because like the beauty of life is in the balance of things. You need to have good and bad happen at the same time, so you feel what a bad experience is like, the negative consequences of that, and also be able to enjoy the positivity and the love and the light that's in the world. So I've had an interesting childhood, you know. We don't need
Tell
to
us a
get into
little.
the details.
Tell us a
Well, I'll
little bit
tell you this.
about
Okay,
it.
so in a nutshell, so I was born and raised across the planet, born and raised in war. So I was in the middle of an 8-year war, an hour away from a border. We ended up, I was 3.5, 4 years old, where in one of the bombings, our house got bombed. My dad used to work in mining, so we were in the community housing near the mining, you know, outside of the city. So one of the primary, you know, real estates for getting bombed on are the big factories in the city. So, and the community housing with that got hit too. So having come back from a shelter, basically we see that there's no house. So, you know, a day or two after that, the entire family, maybe 20 of us, rent a bus, and we drove like 10 hours away to the north of the country. This is back home in Iran. And that's kind of like how my childhood was, you know. So up until today, my physical trauma is with loud noises, bangs, and, you know, booms and things like that. Just like my dog who's sleeping behind me, we both have, you know, we both get, our heart rates go up when there's fireworks, you know. So things like that has transitioned 38 years later into my life, and then moving very frequently, you know, becoming an immigrant, and you know, going through learning new languages and dealing with new environments and having to learn how to communicate, how to make friends. And from the time I was 18 till I was 22, 23, I had like no friends. That's when I landed in a new country, didn't speak English, you know, so things like that. So that would be, let's say, the late teenage, early adulthood traumas. And later on in life, graduating right into the 2008 recession, struggling with the job market, not getting a job that I wanted, you know, pick a job as an engineer, someone with an engineering degree in a coffee shop as in a security guard, and then changing my career, or changing my dreams of working as an engineer to going into the field that I'm currently in, which is helping engineers find jobs. You know, so I've had quite a few interesting scenarios, which in comparison with some people that I meet and some people that are currently going through, it's nothing really. So I'm not special at all, but having gone through that, so, you know, I'm grateful for having those tough experiences that have led me to be who I am today, and, you know, be a guide to others. So someone who's willing to share a story, understand your, you know, your story, your experiences, all kinds of trauma. They're all different from each other. They're all valid. Some may be similar, but they're all valid. You know, you experienced it, you're a human being. So being someone who has gone through similar, you know, if not worse situations, uh, I have the heart to listen, you know, because we listen with our heart, you know, we have 2 ears, but
Yes.
we have one heart. So it's the energy, you know, so I'm willing to sit there and I will always get goosebumps. And I, you know, I, I kind of like take on people's energy. You know, someone read my human design, and I don't know if you're familiar with human design, but apparently, like, I'm the kind of person that is very receptive to other people's energy, which didn't shock me at all. It was like, yep, that's me. You know, if I speak with someone who's having a good day, we're partying that day. If you're down, and I normally gravitate towards people who are down and bruised and battered, and that's kind of like where I find fulfillment, then your pain becomes mine, and I'm on a mission to overcome that pain. Not your pain, but that pain, which is now mine.
Right.
So that's how I, and then long answer, long story, but that's how I ended up getting into the field that I am today. Because, you know, if not me, then who?
I love that. Very intuitive. You sound mediumistic to me. That you, and I am not an engineer. So you listened to my case and you leaned in to helping me. And that's one of the things that I love about you is that your light is always shining. I mean, like always, always shining, to always have that oak leaf out to help someone else. And that to me is, you know, our people are listening. When we all can do that, we can become the collective we. And I think that's what's missing in our world today, is that we have a lot of fractions of what we think should be happening and much pain in the world, but not enough we. And that's what I love about you, is that you bring you bring a collectivism to your work and a healing to your work, which I think is absolutely amazing. We are getting close to a break, I see. I just want to, for people who are looking for your information, can you tell them where they can find you in this, right before we go to break?
Yeah, 100%. I'm very social and active on LinkedIn. So if you look my name up in LinkedIn, I'm very responsive there. Aside from that, if you want to learn more about who I am, what I do, how I do it, you can visit my website at engineeryourmission.com.
Awesome. Lovely. And so it's time to go to our first break. You're listening to Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, and Nader Mowlaee. Did I get that right? Mowlaee, my good friend who is an engineer, career coach, and loving leader of wellness and self-care. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Love and Light, living every day in peace with me, Dr. Lisa. And our guest, Nader Mowlaee, is with us, who is a engineer, career coach, and loving leader of wellness and self-care. If you just tuned in, we were talking about how Nader brings this healing compassion to help job seekers and people in their careers, engineers, and I have to say, and educators, because I worked with him. I was not an engineer. He brings this loving presence, and his light does shineth in his work. And we want more of what he does. We want more of him, and we want more people in the world to lean into a higher vibration and the light in whatever you do. And he's an excellent example of that. So thank you for being here, Nader. Can you share about, you shared a little bit about trauma that you experienced that helped you to see this work. And when I think about your work and what I've witnessed you doing, it really reminds me of Dr. King's principles of nonviolence. And there's a few of the principles that I'm just going to mention a couple of them and ask for what some of your impressions. One of them is that the way of nonviolence is for courageous people. And I see you as a courageous person. I would not imagine that anyone who is working to coach people in careers is also looking to help them with healing. That is a courageous way of being. And that you resist negativity and that you offer friendship and understanding is mind blowing. It just touches my heart. Can you tell me, like, I see that in you? Do you see that in yourself?
100%. I have a 3-step formula or a process that I've been through, and I share that with others as well. Which those 3 steps are courage, fear, and confidence. And it starts with courage. Everything starts with courage. And the number one biggest misunderstanding is people feel like they don't have the courage. But if you have a heartbeat, you have a courage. The courage is within you. So I help everyone bring their courage out of them by being behind them, by being, the person that you can lean on. So you can utilize, demonstrate your courage to face your fears. Those are the first 2 steps. Everything that stops us from getting what we want is a fear. There's only a fear. Everything we want is at the end of that tunnel of fear. So you gotta have the courage to face your fear. And as soon as you overcome that fear, you become confident. You develop a new pillar of confidence in yourself. And then with more confidence, you have more potential. And then that raises your level of courage. Now you see like, well, I just did that. So I'm gonna go and face this other fear. It's still pretty scary, but I feel more courageous. I feel more brave. And that's a cycle that I've been through, I'm still going through, and we always go through it in daily endeavors, new things that we're pursuing that are scary. The thing is that you got to do it one at a time, I feel like, especially if you're not used to dealing with multiple fears and multiple demons can be pretty scary, and the success rate could be lower. But your ability to face one demon at a time and overcome it and just move on to the next, it's just like a video game, for those who play video games. You just got to go from one level to the next.
Well, I think you are so on point here, because I remember one of the things that you asked me to do when we were working together is to reach out to people that I did not know. And that doesn't seem like a big deal, but I had a really hard time with it. And it's exactly what you said. I just did not have the courage. Like, how can that possibly work? How can that doesn't seem like it would work. I don't know these people. But once I had the willingness to continue, and it's, very similar to what I'm saying about a lower vibration. Just imagine if our whole community just raised up their willingness to be positive instead of negative, it would change the world. And for me, I did make connections like you said I would. And everything that you had proposed did come true. It eventually came true. And I thought, like, he doesn't know what he's saying.
Oh, it's predictable because we are human, we make human to human connections. You don't even need to speak the same language or live in the same continent, on the same continent. You're human, again, it goes back to that energy that we exchange, and what's behind it is the thought, and what's behind it is the message. So the right message, the right thoughts, and the right energy, you can send it across a Ethernet wire or Wi-Fi connection to the other continents, just like you and I right now are in 2 other hemispheres speaking to another, So we can get the energy, we can still give each other goosebumps. I must have got at least 2 goosebumps today just talking, and just, you talking to me, giving me goosebumps, and me telling a story about my childhood. I'm just like, every, hair on my body rises up. So we can still do that by exchanging good energy, good thoughts, and good messages. And it's the doubt that stops us from doing that, because then that doubt takes the thoughts away, diminishes the energy right away. Then your thoughts are becoming doubtful thoughts, not hopeful thoughts. And then doesn't really matter what the message is or what you're gonna say at that point. You've already lost your, you just lost it, you're back to square one. But a couple of things that I believe are prerequisites, going back to what you just mentioned, you mentioned a positive mental attitude, earlier, and a high rate of vibration, So whether you know, right before this, physical movement, physical exercise, walking is really great to raise that rate of vibration. So I was just like walking around upstairs, downstairs, and I actually called my sister. So we're talking because I know, you have a good, loving conversation that kind of raises your positive mental attitude. So I do those couple of exercises before any kind of an engagement like this. I need to have, positive thoughts, positive energy, and then literally a higher heart rate, So that vibration is huge.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so people are out there looking for jobs right now. They're looking for jobs. Some people have felt this discouragement and they feel defeated. They feel like injustice is happening to them on a regular basis. They're suffering. They feel like they can't educate or transform. And here you come, this positive light to lovingly nurture people along their path. If someone's listening right now and you're wondering, like, hey, that's me, then here is a light among us that is actually doing this work. And if you are listening and you are a person who is doing this work, then you need to be illuminated, and more of us light workers need to be together so that we can help raise the vibration of what's going on. Um, do you want to like tell us, like I mentioned a couple of things from Dr. King, love instead of hate, love is active, not passive, love restores community, resist injustice, um, all life is interrelated, deep faith that justice will eventually win. Do you have a story or a story of a client or someone that you started to work with, and then you use these tenets and your courage and the things of confidence and lack of fear to help them overcome?
I do. So the last two resonates with me a lot because we are all made for another. We're all made for each other. All life is interconnected. We're all the same. We
Yes.
are like literally connected through our energies. Through love and light are both energy. They vibrate. They shine. So uh, when let's say I have a client who goes in an interview, so later on stages of the interview, of job search, you actually get to see people on a Zoom call or even on the phone. You can hear and feel someone on the phone. You can even see them smiling or being worried or nervous. All the energy comes across even on the phone, and much more so on a Zoom call. I have conversations with them to raise their energy up, for them to be proud of themselves, to eliminate their self-doubt. Because unfortunately, a lot of times, or many of us, we get negatively affected by people around us. And even more unfortunately, it's sometimes people that are much more closer to us that inject that self-doubt in us. That could be a partner, it could be a sibling, and in most cases, they're a work supervisor or work manager or a line manager. And I actually have a client right now who we spoke with yesterday. We have another interview practice today, one tomorrow, who started with a lot of self-doubt and just believing that, I can't do this. Like she was literally telling me, I had a tough one-on like direct conversation with her that no, like you can, like and I really pushed her, like, where do you get these thoughts from? Like, who told you? Who told you that you don't have it? Who told you that you're not making sense? And then she finally, and I can be very persuasive and pushy to be, for lack of a better word, to figure out like the root cause of a problem. She ultimately said that it's my current manager. And he tells me that I don't understand you when you talk, when you present, I don't understand you. And sure, English is not her first language, but she's a studied here. She's highly educated with a master's degree in electrical engineering. She's a technical person, I understand you well, which is, I kept telling her, I understand you well. And we're recording our Zoom call. Go back and listen to yourself. If you catch me not understanding you or having any issues, then come and tell me. But please don't take on that. Don't accept what people tell you. So I talked to her about imposter syndrome and the self-doubt, and gave her some resources, introduced her to Mel Robbins and a few other professionals who talk about overcoming self-doubt and imposter syndrome. And that's something that just really is very close to my heart, because I've gone through it as well. You know, people tell you you're not worth it, so you accept that you're not worth it. So we got to get that out of our body, so we can shine and we can vibrate the right way during interviews. And last but not least is to just do the right thing. You know, as long as you do the right thing, you know, justice will prevail, and you know, you don't have to worry about it, which again, doing the right thing requires bravery and courage. But as long as you do the right thing, you know that you're in the, you know, you did the right thing, you know, for lack of a better
Yes,
word. And you're not trying to deviate from, you know, you're not trying to bend the truth, you know, trick someone to do something. So very
absolutely.
important. Yeah.
Absolutely. That is amazing. We're coming up on a break. Stay with us and to hear about how um, this amazing person, Nader, uh, raises a vibration of people to help them live their life. You're listening to Love and Light with Dr. Lisa. We'll be right back. We are back on Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa. I have Nader Mowlaee here with me today, talking about how he uses strength, determination to encourage people in the workforce. Nader, how can people reach you? Where's the best place to contact you?
You'll always find me on LinkedIn. So if you look my name up, very active, very responsive. To learn more about what I do, how I do it, who I work with, engineeryourmission.com is the best place.
Awesome. Thank you. We were just ending that last segment and it was just really getting good. And you had mentioned that someone would had a really critical voice. And it really reminds me as a life coach, often I ask people, whose voice is that? And ask them to be reflective, because unless it's saying super positive things like you look amazing, I love that lipstick on you, that dress looks amazing on you, instead of are you going to wear that, you look kind of chubby, those voices are not ours. And that you bring that to your work, I find another light, that you're asking and coaching and getting into the places where it's difficult to get into, because really you're leaning into spaces that have been covered up. I mean, I think that what gives you courage to do that?
Great question. I tell you this, right? So there's always going to be people telling you negative, you know, delivering negative messages. You know, what's out there in the world, it's there in the world. You know, what happens to us happens to all of us. We cannot stop that from happening, but we definitely have full control over how we react, how we process that information. Do we choose to accept or neglect that information? You know, so we are fully in control. First, we got to believe that we're in control and we're not destined to fail and we're not doomed. So again, going back to that positive mental attitude, you got to remain positive and hopeful, which I understand it's not easy. If you're going through trauma, if you're finding yourself on a streak of failure after failure, it's definitely not easy. But awareness, you know, self-awareness and understanding that you actually have power, you do have courage, regardless of the scenario you're in. You can make a difference, you can make a change in yourself the moment you decide to. And just like you said, you know, whose voice is that? Who's telling you that information? I often say, you know, consider the source. You know, what's the source of this? Sometimes we read something online, or, you know, another time someone faces us and, you know, puts a hand on our shoulder and delivers a positive or negative message, regardless of the message itself. Consider the source. Often when the news or the information or what someone is telling you is negative, I've learned, so I used to struggle with this, but I've learned, and as I've been told and I've experienced, is that their reflection of you, their perception of you is a reflection of themselves. So if someone's telling you that you don't look good, they're they feel uncomfortable with how they look. In
Mhm.
terms of, in case of my client who we spoke yesterday, if your manager's telling you that they're having a difficult time understanding you, or your work performance is low, they have self-doubt in themselves. They have they may feel like their management or leadership style is poor. So we normally put onto others the negative feelings that we have. If I have a bad day, there's a very good chance that I may put on that bad feeling onto you. If I lack success in one area, I start to blame others. And it's a very human thing to do. We all do it in different portions and areas of life, but we just cannot, on the recipient side, we just cannot be negatively affected. We can't accept, we can hear it. It can go into one ear, but we gotta open the door on the other ear and let it come out of the other ear, and don't let it stay with us and ruin our mood and energy.
That is a really huge thing that you just said, because we live in this society where there's constant negative information coming to us, not to mention if we're at work and someone, and I have been that person that has received the negative impact of someone else's unhappiness or past trauma, that's just kind of like kicking down the can down the road to other people. And it's such a cycle. And I think when people are on that cycle, I know for myself, I felt hopeless. And then my trauma is in the body. We know that it's not an emotional response. It's a physical response to safety. So the body starts to take these huge hits from being in this negative cycle. And right now in our society, in our community, I mean, the news is not good. The news pretty regularly is bad. And when you're going out there, you're carrying this knapsack, you want to look for work, and there's so many things that deter. And I love the way that you build a pathway of advocacy for people, and you give so many services for free. Like, you give services over and over again. I've seen you do LinkedIn Lives. I've seen you put tips. I mean, I know you said that there are people who did stuff for you. Who was the first person that said, hey, Nader, I think that you need this. Let me help you. And why did you trust them?
There have been so many, so I've got this list beside me, but the first person in 2010 was Samantha Studebaker out of Atlanta, whose Facebook coaching group I became a member of, and it was a paid program, to be honest and fair, but she did such amazing work, completely changed my view towards life. And that was a very tough time for me, going through many changes and I was not the person I am today. Very negative, drinking, smoking on a daily basis. So it was just like trying to numb the pain, and not a very friendly person at all. Highly introverted, wouldn't share my story if my life depended on it. But she's the person who introduced me to really resources that are highly educational, such as the first two names on my list are Dale Carnegie and Jim Rohn, just to be able to just understand what life is about. So when I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, a book that's nearly 90 years old, I barely had any friends, so that's, I don't know if there's anything worse than that. You just feel like you're completely alone on this planet, whether, regardless of I have parents, siblings, people that I work with, people that I went to school with, but I felt like I had no friends, like there's something wrong with me. I was convinced that there's something wrong with me. So Dale Carnegie and his philosophy and his book really helped me understand how to make friends, how to communicate, and principles of just reaching out, to presenting myself, collaborating with others, and becoming a lead myself. And then when I got to My mom introduced me to Anthony Robbins. So from Anthony Robbins, I found Jim Rohn, who's Anthony's, mentor. And then just understanding about life and different seasons of life and what life really means. I mean, that was how fundamental I was. I was missing all the basic stuff, just what is this, and lots of blame, blaming my parents, blaming where I was born, my nationality, color of my skin, like everything, the color of my hair, the accents, like everything was to blame. And just understood what am I here to do on this planet and what is every one of us to do on this planet. And that just opened the floodgates to just reading a lot of great authors and reading a lot of books and finding training programs and in person, online, offline, and I really just fell in love with being coached, because I realized that all these negative feelings, I'm getting rid of my demons, and just the best feeling ever. That's where my hand just stayed up all the times. I had questions all the times, and I was willing to invest time, money, and energy to get answers.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. And I thank you so much for sharing your experience. And I've had similar experiences where, the teacher just showed up. And I know that if it can happen for me and it can happen for you, if there's anyone who's listening, it can happen for you too. It can happen for you too. Wow, that's amazing. If you're listening, we're coming up on a break. As it's going really quickly. That's an awesome conversation. You're listening to Love and Light, Living Every Day in Peace with me, Dr. Lisa. And when we come back, we will continue to talk about how to be a healer in the world with Nader Mowlaee, my good friend who is a career coach who brings deep faith and justice into finding jobs for many people. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, and my very special guest, Nader Mowlaee, who is an amazing light worker who works within the workforce, helping pave the way, shine the light for others to be able to comfortably find their path, their light in this world, in the workforce. Nader, thank you. If you could remind people again, where could they contact you? Where could they hear more about your work?
Of course, website would be engineeryourmission.com, or you can always reach me directly every day on LinkedIn.
Every day on LinkedIn. I can contest for that. And also, if you're not an engineer, reach out to him anyway. A conversation with him could, I know for me, helped me to be able to start walking in the direction that I felt like my heart wanted to go into, but I didn't have the courage to think that I could do it on my own. And so I began to work with him. And one thing that he told me is he said that your next boss, you're going to know your next boss. And that's how you're going to get your next job. Your jobs are going to be from people who know you and you're going to add value to their institution or organization. And I really didn't believe him. And but you know what? He was right. That's exactly what happened. And right at the break, he was saying it's the same message that he's gotten, but the message doesn't change. The messenger changes. Did I get that right?
You got it right. That's how I got into the field that I am. Growing up in a family of engineers, and I was destined to be an engineer. So I went to engineering school and graduated in 2008. So hit the last market crash, and wasn't quite lucky enough to start a career as an engineer. So 3 years later, having bounced from one job to another, none required me to be an engineer or have an engineering degree. I was in a very down place. Like 2010 was a bad place. I was in a bad place, bad time. But I was delivered this message that a career, where you're gonna find fulfillment and joy. You'll find that joy and fulfillment in in solving problems, find problems that you want to solve, that you can solve, and offer value. That's how value is defined, by solving people's problems. So when by chance I came across an opportunity to get into the human resources and the recruitment field, that made me feel great. I said, well, I failed for 3 years to find a job that was right for me. What if I stopped that from happening to other people? There was no better feeling than that. And 12 years later, I still help people avoid job search failure. And I'll do that forever. It will never stop me, because I've felt the pain. I went through 3 years of pain, and I know what it feels like to apply to thousands of jobs and not hear back, and not get that validation that we need, because we often, this is a problem, but we often look for validation from a third party, from outside, rather than self-validating ourselves. So I take my clients through helping them, overcome that, change their perspective, and position themselves as a solution provider, as a problem solver. I always say, don't talk about yourself, talk about the problems that you solve. Because if you talk about the problems you solve, and I'm a hiring manager with those problems, now you're talking about me. Now I want to listen to you. Now I'm going to lean in, and you're going to validate your own identity as well. Because right now, aside from this pandemic that we're going through, we've, whether you realize it or not, we're in a pandemic of identity crisis. We've all, a lot of us, the majority, have lost their identity, and they've lost their jobs and careers, and the rules of the game, rules of the economy, environment, everything's changed. So you don't know what to do anymore. You could be in a place that you have no place in this world. Your skill sets are redundant. You've been replaced by technology, or no one wants to pay you for the work that you used to do. So your identity is in a crisis, and I believe that's the bigger pandemic that has led to overwhelmingly higher suicide rate, overwhelmingly higher drug overdose, and just pain and heartache.
Yes, and I absolutely agree with the identity crisis. We have a soul sickness that we have in our world and in our communities, and we're outward facing and not inward facing. We're not looking at who we authentically are, like we are interrelated. When you're suffering, I'm suffering. And that is really the nexus and the foundation of this podcast: living every day in peace and love and light, and that oneness to connect one to another. And I feel like we have like one golden rule, is to treat people how we want to be treated and to care for one another. And we can't seem to do that. No matter what, we just seem to cycle and cycle. And to me, that's why your work is so valuable, because you create these communities of love and support. I've watched you do LinkedIn Lives where you're giving gifts of, hey, we have this expert who's going to be on for this time, and you can ask questions. That doesn't cost anybody money. It may cost you something, but it doesn't cost anybody. It costs time, but people come on and they are able to get like, hey, that makes me think about this. That is like, you're a light worker, you're a healer, and you're in the midst of a place where I would never imagine a healer to stand up and be seen in the middle of the job force, saying the things that you're saying.
Yeah, like one of my mentors used to tell me all the times, and it's one of the messages, so again, he was the messenger of the message, 1,000-year-old message. So saying, stop arguing, or stop telling people what a good person should be, and just be a good person, and just do the right thing, because we're going back years, but me complaining about the job market. Why are recruiters doing this? They're ghosting people. Why are hiring managers don't know what kind of person to look for? Jobs open up and they close down within a day. Why do they keep telling people that there are jobs? Well, there are no jobs. They've already filled it. And I can list another 10 complaints about how the job market and the workforce operates. And he would just say, just stop complaining about, what a good job market, what a good workforce is supposed to be like. Just be that person. Just do that, set an example, lead by example. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm just following, guidance of others, and I'm grateful for them. I consider myself to be blessed to be here and just be a messenger, because you don't have to be, we can all be our own prophets, It's like you have a message, you can just have one message and you just drive that home. I've been doing it for 12 years. I can do that for the next 50 years or whenever I die. That would be my message, I can leave a good legacy. And that's, if we can find purpose in life like that, like meaning in life like that, that I believe will always keep us happy, keep us fulfilled, keep us content. And that's our identity, that's my identity, so it's got nothing to do with engineering. The only reason I say I help engineers because, when they look at me and they say, oh, he actually went to engineering school, and when we go deep into work, I understand what they do. So that's an extra layer of understanding that is good for them. But yeah, like a good 20% of my clients are non-technical. They don't have to be engineers, but we're all human, so we do need to understand each other and work with one another.
Yes. I would say if you're listening, we have been here with Nader Mowlaee, and he is an amazing light worker who is working out in the world to light the path for people, not just in the job force, but also in their personal lives. It's just amazing to see someone out there doing this work. And my mission, my goal is to continue to bring love and light, to illuminate love and light throughout our world so that we can see these examples. And when we see these examples, we know that it is, light is, and it does happen, and it is happening in our world. Wow, I can't believe time is up. Thank you so much, Nader, for being here with me during this time. And I would just like to say that I love the last thing that you said. My tip usually is treat yourself like your best friend, but you were saying, hey, if you have a purpose on this earth, go ahead and grab it. Go ahead and do it. Focus on it. If you'd like to contact me, you can contact me, Dr. Lisa, at educationthroughengagement.com. Sign up for my newsletter, and I will be able to keep you updated on what's going on. And I want to thank my guest today, Nader Mowlaee, for sharing such great information about leaning into love and light in the world. And I want to thank you, the listeners, for tuning in to Love and Light with Dr. Lisa, living every day in peace. I had a wonderful time. Please join me the second and fourth Wednesday. And next time in Love and Light, we will have a magnificent intuitive medical doctor, Dr. Iris L. Davis. Have a great week. Be grateful for everything that you have. Love your family. And until next time, Dr. Lisa, Love and Light. Thanks for listening to Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, Everyday Living in Peace. You spent the last hour engaging in challenging and transformational conversations, all for the purpose of living a peaceful, joy-filled existence. Join me next time to continue growing in love and light through healing practices and acts of love. To learn more or work with me, Dr. Lisa, visit educationthroughengagement.com. That's educationthroughengagement.com. Remember, the world changes when we change by coming home to love. Tune in every second and fourth Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, here on transformationtalkradio.com.